And this is a lesson for every seller that's out there. And I think high relational sellers, Joe, fall into this trap.
Mhm.
That salespeople understand how to build relationships and they understand all these people skills. And I'm here to tell you, they don't.
Right.
People are messy. Relationships are messy. Relationships and people require practice.
Larry, I've been looking forward to this one. We did our brief talk a few weeks ago to really talk about what we're going to be going over today, and I've been excited ever since. So thank you for coming on today.
No, it's my pleasure. I go, after we initially spoke, I go, I know we're going to have a great conversation and we're going to continue to have a great conversation. Mark
I
my
agree.
word on this one, Joe.
Yeah, I think we can bring a lot of awareness to the commercial real estate brokerage industry. Actually, not just commercial real estate, salespeople in general. And so, but I suppose I should do a little introduction first, huh? And for
Dude, your
that,
show, dude, it's your show. You do it. Hey, those are mighty fine glasses
thank
you
you.
got there, Joe.
I put them with my black suit. I have clear ones too. I got them in all shades. $17 on Amazon.
There you go.
All right, so I've got Larry Levine today. I'm really excited about this. Larry's a best-selling author, Selling from the Heart and Selling in a Post-Trust World, and co-host of the Selling from the Heart podcast. Larry brings over 30 years of in-field sales experience. His mission is to help sales teams grow revenue, develop personally, and enhance their clients' lives by leveraging the power of authenticity. Very powerful word in sales.
It is, and a lot of times I've said this, and it's one of my favorite sayings, Joe. When it comes to authenticity, I go, authenticity is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's not a light switch. It's not something that you wake up today and go, you know what? I think I'll try authenticity. If it works, great, I'm going to run with it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to chuck it off into the closet. We're all authentic human beings.
Yeah.
It's just how we choose to carry ourselves.
Yeah. I agree. The thing is, a lot of people think that they can turn it off and on, but I just think there's a radar in a human being that can really pick out the inauthentic ones.
Oh, it's so funny because I always say this. I grew up with a father who was a rocket scientist, PhD in just business smarts. And so I can't scientifically prove this like I'm sure my father could probably try to figure out, but there's a sixth sense that a lot of people have,
Right.
and it's the sixth sense of BS.
Yeah.
And regardless of what avenues you happen to be calling into in sales, whether that's commercial real estate or where I came out of the copier channel here in Los Angeles, people sense this stuff. They
Hmm.
can sense when you're leaning in. I call it leaning in, when you're being real, when you're being authentic, when you're being genuine. They can tell it in your body language, in your tonality, in your eye movements and things like that. But I'm telling you, they can sense when you're trying to pull a fast one or you're being inauthentic.
Yeah.
They can really sense it, and the meters are at an all-time high right now.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it, I think, is to do with if you're talking or listening. If you're not doing both, if you're just constantly talking, why aren't you making comments, asking probing questions, and really trying to find out what your client's really looking for? I want to start. Your sales background is pretty funny, selling copiers. Can you kind of tell us how you started? Because I love the story.
Oh boy. So originally, it's so interesting how we wind up in sales. It's not like you're 8 or 9 years old and say, "Hey, you know what, mom and dad, I think when I grow up, I'm going to be a professional salesperson." I don't think it ever plays out that way, and it sure didn't play out for me. But I grew up in the pharmacy world. So my very first job in high school was delivering medicine from a pharmacy to people who really couldn't get out. And I kind of got bitten by the bug and I said, you know what? This is really cool. I think I want to be a pharmacist. Serious.
Okay.
And so I tell my parents, I'm going to be a pharmacist. I think I can make this thing happen until I could not pass freshman chemistry in college. Couldn't pass it. I go, man, if I can't pass freshman chemistry in college, it's going to be a long road. So then I flipped the switch really fast and I go, well, what's the next best thing? Knowing that was kind of my background growing up from, high school into college, working in pharmacies. I go, why don't I just become a pharmaceutical rep?
There you go.
Because I saw, right? I just saw how they walked into pharmacies. They had nice suits, watches, company
Hmm.
cars, things like that. So I double majored in college. I got a degree in marketing and a degree in health science.
Okay.
And I found myself graduating college 1987 with all these degrees, but no job. Zero job. I go through all the interviews and I would lose out to somebody who had sales experience.
Right.
So I go, how do I go out and get sales experience? And I vividly remember my father telling me, if you can sell copiers and last 1 year in sales, you're worth your weight in gold. I remember that. I was like 1980, like tail end of 87, beginning of 88. So I open up the yellow pages. So now I'm dating myself. I open up the yellow pages and I find the largest ad in the yellow pages. Picked up the phone, cold called it, found the owner, right? And miraculously, like 2 days later, I go in for an interview, and 2 days later, I'm hired. And that's how this whole thing started, was not passing freshman chemistry. Can't become a pharmacist. I'll go to the next best thing. Go sell copy machines.
Right.
Probably the hardest thing you could possibly sell. And I go, I'm just going to last a year in this. But something clicked in my head, and it's how I was raised. And I'm a big believer. You're a product of the environments you were raised in.
Hmm.
Whether that be personally, I could say the same thing professionally to salespeople. Your products of how you were raised in the sales departments you were raised in. And I go, you know what? I was raised where, and my parents were raised that way. You find a job and you stick to it and you turn that into a career. And I go, there's no way I could look my parents in the eye, even though I was an adult, and say, you know what? After a year, I'm going to go find something else. I'm going to find another sales job and another sales job and another sales job. I chose this industry. They didn't force me into it. And I go, you know what? I'm going to flip the script on this and I'm going to become the best professional copier salesperson there is. And I stayed in and I doubled down on it. And I figured out what made me tick and how to carve a very nice career. And I spent 30 years in Los Angeles, Ventura County, Los Angeles County, selling copiers. I was business partner in 3 copier dealerships, had a very good exit, but the most highly transactional, backwards, highly commoditized thing you could possibly sell. I sold things that broke, that would constantly break.
Did you have a service contract you put with it too?
Oh yeah, of course, right?
You're upselling all the time as well.
All the time. But here,
Yeah.
but here's what I learned. And this plays out. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're selling commercial real estate, if you're selling copiers, or you're selling phones, it doesn't matter. I knew this. If I could double down on the relationship,
Yeah.
if I could double down on the relationship and unpack what the relationship really was all about. And I did one thing better than anyone else, and I wasn't the smartest guy out there. There was people way freaking smarter than me. There was people that would outsell me, out strategize me. No one was going to out care me.
Yeah.
And I really got, no pun on selling from the heart. I got to the heart of what matters with people, and
Hmm.
that's what they really cared about. And I just kept asking questions to find out what they truly care about. And I just flipped the script on this. I just out cared everybody.
And that's where the authenticity came from. And
100%.
which in the end built the trust.
100%. And see, and that's what everyone's lacking today. In fact, it's really interesting. And I think high relational sellers, Joe, fall into this trap.
Hmm.
And I bet you in your line of work, there's high relational sellers as well.
Oh yeah.
I always share this, and I think it's the negative connotation that plays on people with people on this. And I say this, and I'd be curious your thoughts, and anyone else who's watching this later is or listening. You can be liked. Check this out. You can be liked and be viewed as friendly, or you can be seen as trustworthy and credible. Which one would you choose? And you can't have both.
Oh yeah. You're going to take trust
You're going to take
every
trustworthy
time.
and credible every
Yeah.
time, but yet high relational sellers are always worried about being liked and being
Hmm.
friends. And I will raise my hand and say, I'm all about that. But
Hmm.
immediately when I meet somebody, you got to build trust really fast. But the flip side of this is relational sellers lean into I want to be liked first and I
Yeah.
want to be your buddy first. No, if you're working with executives, executives want to trust you and they want you to be credible. They want you to be relatable. They want you to be real. They want you to be relevant. You got to flip the script on this.
Yeah, especially if you're using institutional, you want to, you've got a contact there, right? Well, that person has been in charge of bringing you into their company, taking care of their business. Well, they're reporting to somebody too. And so you've got to make them look good. You got to really build that trust. And honestly, you want to try and get to know those other people as well in that company if you can. And it's something that building trust goes a long way in our industry. You talked about in the book your formula. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was interesting about there's a little backstory, if you allow me to share
Sure.
this with everyone. There's a backstory to all of this. And I remember this was about 3.5 years ago. I remember my business coach and his mentor. We all went out to dinner one day, and this was down in the South. This was in Atlanta, in Georgia. And one night we're sitting there having dinner. My business coach and his mentor says to me, and Darrow, my podcast partner, was there as well. So you got front row seat to all of this. And they said, hey, you know what? Selling from the heart, you guys are doing an amazing job, right? Once you figure out what you can do at selling from the heart, watch what will happen. And I'm giving people the backstory to this because this is what launched your question and the trust formula and all that. They go, listen, and this is a lesson for every seller that's out there. My business coach and his mentor says this, Larry, you got to be able to look an executive in the eye. People that are watching or listening to this, key decision maker, you got to be able to look them in the eye and be able to share with them how working with you will help them do better business. My business coach and mentor said, you got to look an executive in the eye and said, if you implement selling from the heart, what will happen? Not that it's pixie sticks and rose petals and it's nice stuff and it's fluffy and all that, but an executive wants to know if I implement the foundation of selling from the heart, what's going to happen to my salespeople? What's going to happen to revenue and profits? And I said, well, if somebody implements selling from the heart and what we coach and teach to, it will help them build trust and credibility in environments that sorely need it. They go, then go to work on that. The next day, we whiteboarded out the trust formula. And it was the reason being is my business coach said, people tend to remember things in equations. It's just how our brain works.
Hmm.
And my business coach used to be on the security team for Tony Robbins. And so he got a front row seat into Tony Robbins coaching and things like that. Whether you like Tony Robbins or you don't like him, it's not the purpose of this. It's just he just happened to get a front row seat for quite a number of years as one of his members on a security team. He goes, people remember things in equations. How can you work with executives and their sales team to help them build trust and credibility? Think of an equation. And the next day, the whole entire day, we whiteboarded out the 4 foundations of building trust and credibility. And it all plays out in selling in a post-trust world. And it's about building authentic relationships and combining it with meaningful value. Now, I don't care what industry y'all are calling into, in this case, commercial real estate. This all plays out. If you want to build trust and if you want to build credibility, you got to build a genuine, congruent, authentic relationship with people. And that's who you know. That's who you know in these places. But on the flip side of that, and we call it there's 2 sides of the trust coin, you got to build and bring meaningful business value.
Yeah.
This is where salespeople struggle with because it's that likability and friendship factor. They get caught in the relationship building part of this, but they're not bringing any meaningful business value or what I call business substance or business goods to the table. They got a lot of friends and they're broke and they got inconsistent sales. So if we can build authentic relationships and combine it with meaningful business value, those are the 2 sides of the trust coin. But the accelerators to the trust formula, one's fun, one requires a lot of work. The fun part of this is inspirational experiences.
Sure.
And this is how you show up as a sales professional. And by the way, you're responsible for it. Not your company, not your manager, not your leader. You as a salesperson are responsible for how you show up. And I know this, and this is leadership 101, Joe.
Yeah.
Leaders do a couple things better than anything else. They inspire and influence people to see and achieve things they don't think they can do on their own, and they create impact. Sales professionals can do this. How are you inspiring people into better business? The last part of this is disciplined habits.
Mm.
And disciplined habits is the hardest part of this as adults. It's to bring consistency, self accountability to the forefront. Because without disciplined habits, it's hard to build a genuine, authentic relationship. It's hard to bring meaningful value, and it's hard to bring an inspirational experience. Disciplined habits is the glue to make all of this come true. That's kind of the flyover to the trust formula, but it plays out. Selling from the heart's the foundation. That's bringing your genuine, authentic self to the forefront. But how you build trust and credibility is based on the four pillars of authentic relationships, meaningful value, and inspirational experience, and you got to be disciplined with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see, I mean, I'm sure you guys were doing a lot of training when when you're doing your copiers. It seems like when I talk to commercial brokerage companies, they're combining their sales teaching with their service teaching or product teaching, training, that is. I think those two should be split. There should be sales training and there should be product training. How did you guys do that?
So it's interesting. If I could flip the switch and go back in time, I'd rewrite and rescript how we coached and trained salespeople.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, in the industry and the time that I grew up in the industry, it was all crammed together. You did a little bit of product training, you did a little bit of sales training, you did ad hoc, which is a polite word. It's a G-rated word of role playing, right?
right.
And you did it on an inconsistent basis. If we look at it today, product training should stand on its own, company training should stand on its own, and there should be a very tight component of consistent and disciplined sales coaching and training done on a weekly basis. Here's what's interesting, and I wrote about this in Selling from the Heart, is because everyone likes to make the sports analogies to sales. What sport right
Yeah,
closely aligns to sales, and we make all these analogies. But I remember, writing the book, I said until salespeople could plan, practice, and prepare like professional athletes, you can't make any comparison. So for sales leaders and executives out there, when it comes to coaching your salespeople, yes, you got to do product training. You got to do skill set training and all this. I totally get it. Totally support it. But how are you consistently coaching and training your salespeople on two key components in sales that I see get overlooked? How are you coaching and upskilling your salespeople on people skills and relationship building skills in a world where sales is not viewed through the trustworthy lens?
right.
And that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where the inconsistencies start to happen, at least how I see it.
Yeah, I don't know too many people doing that. I mean, it's really hard to really establish those relationships. And so I think the training in our industry is something we need to take a look at. A lot of the big commercial real estate brokerage companies, they'll bring you in and they put you, on a team, and then you just mentor, and there's some
Uh-huh.
training, you
Yeah.
know. Then you go to a boutique firm, and there's training once in a while, and but you're kind of more of an entrepreneur. And then like what we're doing at our company is we do training. We go 8:30 in the morning, 5 days a week, and 5 o'clock before you go home. We do some training,
Oh, that's
and
so good.
and at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
what worked for you today. How many calls you do, how many emails you do, on and on and on. How did it go, and what can we do better tomorrow? But I think we're even guilty of combining the two of the sales along with the product as well. It's just something that our industry's always done, but I can sure see the benefit of splicing the two.
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings, Joe, is this: if you want to achieve the results that no one's achieving, you got to be willing to do the things that no one is doing.
Yeah,
And we know this, the marketplace is changing. Our
yeah,
clients are changing. The community is changing. I believe we've got to change the way we coach and train salespeople.
yeah.
And there's a lot of assumptions that go along, and I'm making a general statement here, but there's a lot of assumptions that go on as leaders. We assume that salespeople understand how to build relationships and they understand all these people skills. And I'm here to tell you, they don't.
Right.
People are messy. Relationships are messy. Relationships and people require practice, requires intentionality, requires showing up in a different manner. And we can't just expect grown adults to understand how to build the people skills and relationship building skills needed in today's world. It's vastly different than it was even 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah, that's not in any of the training.
Yeah.
And I think, the younger generations coming in, they're excited to get into the industry. I think there's a real opportunity here to pivot our training in our industry to really make it more valuable and even a lot better. And I think, even in the beginning, we don't realize that the first time that we meet somebody, we're instantly building their trust. They're sitting across the table from us going, I just met this guy, Larry. He's wanted to be my broker. Um, you know, but I didn't get much from him because we just talked about X, Y, and Z. When in fact, you as the agent should realize that here's an opportunity for me to start building trust right now.
Oh, you bring up such a great point. I tend to look at this as like impression management.
Right.
And if I ask anybody, whether that be you, Joe, or anybody that's in commercial real estate, do first impressions matter?
Yeah.
Everybody, 100% of the time is going to say yes, they do. Then are you hyper aware of the first impression you're making? Are you hyper aware of the first 3 or 4 minutes of that conversation with somebody? Because first impressions are lasting impressions. As a salesperson, I want to know what's the silent things going on inside Joe's head.
Hmm.
Joe might be bobbing up and down, going, yeah, I'm tracking with you. But silently, he might be saying, you know what, dude? You're not all that. And I'm just, being direct with this, but
Yeah.
what I really want to understand as a salesperson are the silent things. It's the perception. What's going on inside that person's head? Are they listening to me? Do they see me? Do they value me? They may never tell you.
They
They
probably
may
won't.
never tell you.
Yeah, they probably won't say a word to you. They're going to sit across the table from you, shaking their head, and then they'll get up and walk away. And they're like, "This guy doesn't, it's not a good fit for us."
And then you wonder why you get ghosted
Yeah, because they
when
don't
they're
want to
not
tell you no.
responding to your emails or your voicemails or anything like that. But because they bobbed their head and they were nice and they didn't want to let you down, you
Yeah,
think you got somebody there who's air quotes a prospect.
yeah. The one thing that every house has is a mirror. Sometimes we need to stop and look in it and go, "Oh, there's the guy that caused the problem," and we've got to taking it on ourselves to go, "Okay, what did I do? What could I have done better?" Every time you do a meeting and analyze it. It's so easy to just walk away going, okay, that one's done, and then you just move on to the next one. If you just take a few minutes afterward and write down everything you think you did right and everything you did wrong,
Yeah.
I think it can be very helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought up the mirror.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because mirror never lies. The
Mm-mm.
mirror never lies. Only the person looking into the mirror lies,
Yeah. Self
right?
accountability can be a harsh one.
And it's I'm harder on myself than anybody else.
Hmm.
How many salespeople are harder on themselves than anybody else?
Yeah.
I'm on a constant quest. I don't know about you. I'm on a constant quest to get better every single day. But how many in sales are on that quest? And I say this for a reason. Sales is a great profession. It's a very noble profession. Are we treating it like that?
Oh no. I think we're treating it like I need to get the next lead, you
Yeah.
know? Next lead, next lead, next lead. And, what's the most expensive piece of business you're going to get? It's that next lead because it's
Yeah.
time, money, everything is going into it. You know, it's it's too easy to not worry about the relationships we have and to always look for the next relationship when there needs to be a combination of the two in real estate at least. It's you've got to be thinking about, we talk about inbound calls and outbound calls. People
Uh,
are reaching into you and people, you're reaching out to them. You got to think of these relationships that you've got because a lot of money can be made with the existing clients you have by going back. And, if you've done a good job impressing them by being your authentic self and they really trust you, they're going to be willing to give you referrals. And that's where a lot of money can come from. Probably more
oh,
so than you're going to get from cold calling.
no. Oh, amen on that one. But here's what's interesting is how many really understand, hear me out on this one. How many really understand how to build a real relationship that in turn turns into real revenue?
Right.
And think of relationships as asset management, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know this. If I buy a brand new car and I roll it off the lot, it's already depreciated in value. People, salespeople, if you do not invest in your most precious asset, which is relationships,
Yep.
they will depreciate very fast. That's why I believe there's such a transactional mindset with a lot of salespeople. Transactional mindsets in the world of sales are replaceable. There's always somebody that's going to come along with a better transactional speak. They carry themselves in a better transactional way.
Yeah.
You get where I'm going with this? It
Yeah.
happens. I don't care what sales channel you call into.
Sure.
If I'm a salesperson and I go, man, relationships mean something, then I got to pour my heart and soul into building these relationships. The more I invest in these relationships, the more I collect from these relationships. And that collection is referrals,
Yeah.
referrals, and more referrals. But yet we talk about it and we want referrals, but what are we really doing to invest in the relationships that we have and helping them become better?
How do you train that, Larry? How do you train somebody? Let's say you got a broker and they've been in business for a couple of years and they've not been good with contacting past clients. I mean, obviously, you start with your CRM. Make sure every time you have a conversation with somebody that you can reference back to previous conversation. You every time you have the conversation, you type it in. This is what we talked about. Then the next time you talk to them, well, last time we spoke, I find that one works really well. But how do we build from there? Where do we go from to get people to really start referring us more business or giving us repeat business?
I it goes back to if you want more referrals, it's counterintuitive. If you want more referrals, you got to give more referrals,
Mm, that's good.
right? And so it's just simple. That's just say I'm making up numbers right now.
Sure.
This all I'll tie this all together. But let's just say I as a salesperson, I want I'm making a number up. Let's just say I want 10 referrals. I'd like to receive 10 referrals in a given month. Then in the back of my mind, I got to go, okay, well, that's 2 to 1. I got to give 20 referrals in a month. This is part of having a servant hearted mindset.
Hmm.
And then where I'm going with this is all relationship building as well. So I'll use you, Joe, as an example. Let's just say you're a client of mine. I want to know as much as I can possibly know about Joe, personally and professionally. Joe's hobbies, his favorite sports teams, where he likes going out to dinner. This is old Harvey Mackay stuff, if y'all remember Harvey Mackay. Swim with the Sharks, right?
I
And
was
his
gonna say that was a
66
while ago.
that was a while ago, 66 questions and all that. So some of y'all who are too young to remember, just Google search
Mm.
Harvey Mackay. But I want to know the personal side of all of this with Joe. But on a business side, I want to know Joe's goals, his initiatives, his challenges on a quarterly basis, quarter over quarter. But then the other thing that I might want to help Joe with, and it doesn't directly impact me and possibly what I sell, is I'm going to start introducing Joe into my network. And my network could be finance people. My network could be banking people. My network could be insurance people. Why? Because I know Joe's buying other things and Joe's a business person.
Hmm.
And so the art of building relationships is I just want to know as much as I can possibly know about Joe personally and professionally, goals, initiatives, and challenges. I think the best present that you can get as a salesperson is just go back to your clients and keep asking them quarter over quarter, what are your goals, initiatives, and challenges? And how can I be a resource to you?
Hmm. Or how can I help you find a resource?
100%. And that's why it goes back to A, are you referable? And if you would like to receive X amount of referrals, then how many referrals are you going to give? And I'm a big believer, network your network.
Yeah.
As a salesperson, network your network. I do know this. All my clients here at Selling from the Heart, they buy things from other people.
Yeah.
Now, if I can be the conduit to have my network be introduced into their network, I'm the bridge builder. I'm the relational bridge builder to all of that. The common factor in all of this is me. So as a salesperson, if I want the referrals and I know y'all crave referrals, then you got to be willing to give referrals. And these referrals aren't a referral to a sale where the ball's on the 1 yard line. This is a referral to, I just want to have a conversation with Joe.
Hmm. Yeah.
And see,
That's
most
not.
salespeople they want a referral to where the ball's on the 1 yard line so they can plow it over the finish line, the goal line.
Yeah.
No, I know this, nothing happens in sales unless I have a conversation. I just want to have a conversation with Joe.
Hmm. Yeah. It just, being within your community is so key. And, in commercial real estate, once we do the deal, a lot of agents just have the tendency to just move on to the next client when they've already established a relationship with the client they just closed on, and take the time to really go out and build the relationship even further. Be it like you're saying, giving them referrals or finding how you can help them. Or if it's a retail client and you want to go out and take a photo with them and post it on your social media, always be giving back to those clients and just really build that relationship. And I think, how are you? A lot of people send postcards for birthdays and stuff like that. Uh, Most of our agents don't really do that stuff, but they do reach out and maybe or send an email, happy birthday or something like that. But don't go sending gifts and that kind of stuff. But it works. It works by staying in touch with these past clients, and they do send a good amount of referrals.
It's just it's so well, it's sad and it's interesting
Right.
that I want to key in on this relationship part of this. I gotta go back to this.
Sure.
Is Are you building a relationship to make a one-time sale? By the way, people can sniff this stuff out whether you want to believe me or not. They
Oh,
can
absolutely.
they can smell this stuff a mile friggin' away.
Absolutely, they can.
Do you want a real friendship, a real relationship that turns into a long-standing, sustainable relationship? Or are you just building a air quote relationship, however y'all want to define it, just so you can sell something to somebody so you can all move on?
Right.
And if that's the case, you are going to be 100% replaceable.
And you're constantly doing business development to bring in new clients.
100%. I say this in Selling from the Heart. If you want to have an ever flowing sales funnel, you got to build an ever flowing relationship funnel.
Mm, yep. That's exactly it.
One flows into the other.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this, whether it's commercial real estate, whether it's office technology, whether it's banking, whether it's even selling cars, and I'll even go that route, people sense all of this stuff.
Yeah.
The BS meters are at an all-time high right now.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to put up with sales shenanigans anymore. They're just simply not. There's too many choices out there now.
especially in this economy, right? A few years ago when money was so cheap and it was easy to get your hands on it, people didn't really care. But,
Yeah,
in this market, people care.
they do. They may never say it, but
Right.
it's in the back of their head. Does this person have my best interests at heart? Do they care? These are the
Mhm.
silent things. Again, it goes back to the silent things. But mark my word, the minute they find somebody who does this, they'll give them a great big hug and go, "Where the heck have you been all my life?"
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And I think it comes back to, salespeople selling. I think that is kind of changing because, when we started off in sales, Larry, it was completely different, right? It was,
Yeah.
coffees for closers,
Yep.
just get the deal done, move on to the next deal. It's evolved a lot. And I think we're headed to more of a path where what you're out there talking about is a lot more key to finding success now.
No, I mean, I believe it is, and it's why I believe wholeheartedly in the subtitle is selling in a post-trust world.
Hmm.
It says discover the soft skills that yield hard dollars.
Yeah.
Soft skills, right? They're not pixie sticks and rose petals and mushy gushy things. They're the people skills and relationship building skills that turn all of this into hard dollars, which is
Hmm.
commission and sustainable revenues and increased profits.
Yeah,
That's what this comes down to.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we don't really, and that's another thing we don't see a lot of training with is soft skills. How do you train that? How do you train your soft skills?
I mean, everyone has their definition of it. I'm a massive believer in this, and this is kind of how I view things as
Mhm.
relates to this. All the outer layers of success that you all have. And here's what's interesting. This is soft skill related. And it's so funny because people say, well, why do you still use soft skills? Because people can relate to it. I don't
Mhm.
need to come up with a college level word for soft skills. It's just soft skills, people
Right,
skills, relationship building skills. They're heart skills, HEART.
right.
But here's what's interesting. We coach salespeople to outer skills.
To outer.
And where outer skills, right? Uh, closing skills,
Oh,
discovery,
gotcha.
all of this stuff, right? How many of us as leaders or owners of company coach to the inner work? The inner work's the heart work. Those are moral values,
Yeah.
your characteristics, helping people bring this out, helping them uncover who their authentic self is. Because if we can do that, and by the way, I'm 60 years old. I learned more in my 50s about heart than I did in my 20s, 30s, and 40s combined.
Me too.
Amen. I
Yeah.
applaud you for it. And there's not many leaders that will flip the script on working with salespeople and get to the heart of what matters. It was really interesting on the Selling from the Heart podcast. This was just recently. We interviewed the CEO of a company. They got about 350 employees. And on Selling from the Heart, we always ask, the signature question is, what's it mean to you to sell from the heart? I had the CEO of the company say, it's hard to sell from the heart if you don't even know what's in your heart.
Mm.
And that's why here at Insert Name of Company, I work with my people on the importance of doing the inner work.
Yeah.
The levels of success we've had at this company over the last couple of years and the growth we've had is because we do the inner work. We work on our heart skills, we work on our values and our morals and what we stand for as humans. And then we go out and we take that to the marketplace to help us grow our business. That's what I believe the soft skills are. And if sales leaders are willing to do that, and if salespeople are willing to do that, it has a direct correlation to increase in sales, revenue, and profits.
Completely agree. I just think that's where we're going. I think what you guys are out there talking about are really it's the future. And I think if it's you really want to increase your business, you can learn a lot from what you're. I haven't listened to your podcast yet, but I definitely will get around to it. I can promise you that. But what's next for you, Larry?
Oh boy. And we were talking about this just recently, actually
Yeah.
before we started recording this. is our next big project here at Selling from the Heart is actually we're launching a second podcast.
Okay.
And that podcast is called Culture from the Heart. For the simple reason is we wanted to give executives, CEOs of heart-centered companies a platform to share why they're so heart-centered, what makes their culture so good. Because a lot of times it's selling from the heart. We get salespeople saying, "Hey, I do the heart work. I'm all about selling from the heart, but I'm working for a company,
Yeah.
and then I'll
Mhm.
leave the rest to your imagination." And so now you can go to culturefromtheheart.com and you can learn all about this. But we're launching a second podcast in conjunction with all the great work we're doing at Selling from the Heart, just to give a platform to CEOs to have them share their story
Right.
in hopes that it will inspire other CEOs and other business leaders to do the same. That's our, it's a, you might call it a passion project. It's way more than a passion project.
That's
This
cool.
is how we're going to help CEOs of heart-centered companies whose salespeople inside that company may not be heart-centered to become heart-centered.
I'm looking forward to. I'll be able to make sure I tune into that. And you've got your two books. I see the one behind you there. I don't see the other one. Am I missing something?
I haven't gotten around to it, but Selling from the Heart's been out, and it kind of the podcast and the book launched this whole movement.
Okay.
And just earlier this past summer, I launched Selling in a Post-Trust World. That's the
Yeah.
second book. There'll probably be a third book
Okay.
somewhere down the road, but for right now, it's you can go to sellingfromtheheart.net and you can find out anything you want to find out about what we got going on here.
Well, I'm going to put both the books up on the Joe Killinger website so people will be able to find it there. And then we'll put also down the link in this video. So, Larry, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for entrusting me with your audience. I really appreciate it.
I think they learned a lot from you. So, we very, very much appreciate it. So, thank you for coming on. And for those of you watching, if you could, please give us a like. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe.